uniform school fees for East Africans. And the president was very clear. All East Africans studying in Uganda must pay the same fees as locals. And people are saying, no, but in Kenya and Tanzania, they are charging Ugandans higher. President said, do your part. Do your part. Maybe they can learn from you. So we have a problem of waiting for group decisions and we don't do our part. So let's do our part individually. And I like reading books of philosophers, works of philosophers and saints. There is one, Franz Jagstatter, the Blessed. He says, when the Christian lacks a religious inner life, everything external becomes merely activism and appearances. What you can't do in private and you think you do it in public, you are lying to yourself. You are lying to yourself. So let's try our level best. What we do in public, we do it in private. This adage which used to say, do as I say, not as I do. I don't know where it even came from. You know, do as I say, not as I do. That can no longer work. I think we have to walk the talk and we be very clear. Mama and colleagues, of fear, you know, of fear. Plato, one of the greatest philosophers, says, we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The tragedy of life is when men are afraid of light. You find a man is just, you know, like we usually say in the public, that when you're doing, like there is darkness and they say in the process, if light came, you would see heroes falling. You would see heroes falling. We don't want light to be shown in our lives. We fear. Recently when I came from Maputo, where I was shocked. It was my first international conference representing Parliament. And I found all kinds of people. Private jets had landed from Europe everywhere. And the issue was they had come to lobby so that the African, Caribbean, Pacific Joint Parliamentary Assembly with the European Union, where I had Mama Cecilia Gwa, they wanted us to pass a resolution accepting that for European funding to the African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries, the next period of funding, which is the post-Cotonou, we must acknowledge Lgbt. And they were not only saying acknowledging, they were saying we must amend our laws to allow. And they were saying you must provide money for abortion in your budget. If you don't have it, we shall provide it for you, but it should be in the budget. And right on, Honorable Cicero Gwar will tell you, we had that ministers had agreed and everything. So that's when some of us came and said, but how? Really, how? Is this normal? And what was so unfortunate, someone looks at you as abnormal for opposing that. You know, the devil works in many ways. And looks at you as abnormal, as a radical. I met one European Parliament member from Germany who says, I can see you're spreading hatred. I said, really? And when it went viral and some people reached out to me, I got some of our own people who are in government. Someone says, you spoke very well, but be cautious of these people. Do you know Honorable Bahati? He can't get a visa to America. Someone told me, said, be cautious. What you've spoken is enough. So we believe you stop there. And then I asked myself, so I asked that person, I said, so let me ask you, tell me a bigger visa than a visa to heaven. But also, if you don't believe in issues of heaven, tell me a bigger visa than my citizenship of Uganda, which is my national identity. Because if I'm a citizen in Uganda, and you threaten to deny me a visa anyway, I'm coming to your country to spend. You know? So these are issues. I've seen a lot of cowardice on these issues. These are issues whenever Cyril God would tell you when we were in Maputo. We raised them as Africans. We expected other countries to speak. So we were speaking in alphabetical order. Uganda was among the last to speak. And no one had raised it. Yeah, because funding, these people have money, they have power, they can do anything to you. But that brings me, and this is a question to readers. St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 10 to 11, where it's very clear that draw your strength from the Lord and from his mighty power. Put on the armor of God so that you may be able to stand firm against tactics of the devil. The moment you do that, tactics of visa, tactics of threat, tactics of what, you're safe and you're satisfied. You're safe and you're satisfied. So the moment you are able to know that in fighting the devil fights back. It fights back vehemently in very many ways. If you decide to go into comfort, unfortunately, it also finds you in your comfort and destroys you. So I usually tell my people in the village that if you're a Christian, be a good Christian. If you're a Muslim, be a good Muslim. If you're a non-believer, be a very bad non-believer, so that you know repercussions of worshiping the devil. Then you will be a liberated person. As I come to my conclusion, I have seen, and that came from, I reflected on it after someone told me about the visa issue and how I have to be cautious. I read the works of St. Leonard of Port Morris, and this is what he says. We all rely on a long life, which is not in our power. And we trouble ourselves very little about our duty to live a good life, which is in our power. We don't focus on that which is in our power. We focus on that which is not in our power. And in the end, when we are destroyed, we just go complaining. So I want to thank you, our forum on ethics, for organizing this. I think we need now to come back and see how best, the challenge I've seen, how best with this onslaught on our morals. And Mom, I want to recruit you to join us. We need to start a very serious conversation on funding our religious institutions as a government. If we can fund political parties which divide people, if we can fund political parties which preach hatred, which preach tribalism, which facilitate corruption, and in the end, after all this trouble we create, we come to our places of worship for spiritual nourishment. Why can't we fund our churches? Why do we leave our churches on masses of people who are saying we can no longer fund you because you churches you're used to fight LGBT? There is no stronger partner with the state than the religious institutions. Every week in Uganda, according to statistics, over 10 million people attend church. How many attend rallies? Which greater audience can we have? Which greater platform can we have? To me, I believe if we start on this conversation, if we start engaging government, especially with our listening president and father of the nation, with these colleagues in parliament, we can agree on a formula whereby our interreligious council, our Christian joint Christian council, our churches can be funded. Even if you got 100 billion and you say we shall give you according to the census results, okay? Catholics, you're this, Anglicans, you're this, Muslims, you're this, and then we shall put it at the province, which will have to ensure that it trickles down to the last church, but we cut off funding from these people who are promoting evil in our churches and trying to compromise our morals. With those very many words, Mama, I want to invite you to address the congregation.
Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Ministers present here today, Honorable Sababuturo, the Chairperson of the Parliamentary Forum on Ethics and Integrity, Honorable Members of Parliament, our keynote speaker, Reverend Canon John Senyonyi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. I do warmly welcome you to this gathering of leaders and Ugandans of goodwill who have chosen to set aside time to reflect and share perspectives regarding Uganda's state of ethics and morality. And I want to thank Honorable Sababuturo for his very kind words about me. And I want to say honestly that I am not holy. I just try to be obedient to God. And I am very grateful to that God because I know there are so many people in this country who are obedient to God. And some of you are such people. All we have to do is continue being obedient and not apologetic about being obedient to God. And God is able to do all things. He can change our country. We shouldn't give up on Uganda, and we shouldn't look at it as if it's for throwing away. Our God is a mighty God. He is able to do all things. He can change this country through men and women like us, right here, and those who are not here. So please join me in applauding the Parliament of Uganda, particularly the Speaker, Right Honorable Anita Mong, who is not here, and the Parliamentary Forum on Ethics and Integrity for convening us to audit the nation's state of ethics and morality and to focus on its significance in our growth and development. We are all aware that God and the people of Uganda have entrusted us with the stewardship of this nation. And we owe it to them to address this issue that confounds us. The theme of this conference, moral values, the bedrock of Uganda's stability and prosperity in quotes, draws our attention to the centrality of ethics and morality in every aspect of the development of a nation. We recognize that when a nation upholds ethical and moral values such as respect, caring for one another, honesty, diligence, stewardship of time and resources, and accountability, its people become productive and coexist in harmony. As the Bible states in Proverbs 14:34, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people, unquote. Likewise, morally and ethically upright public servants are critical to attaining functional infrastructure, well-organized social services, efficient and effective service delivery, and a thriving people and economy. These are pertinent to achieving our national goals and aspirations, as stipulated in Uganda's Vision 2040 and the current National Development Plan 3. At the end of this conference, it is expected that we make recommendations on building a moral and ethical society. However, let me share a few perspectives that I consider would be helpful in advancing this cause. Every effort to positively impact people and communities should be cognizant of the power of building and intentionally nurturing the required culture with consistency. Consequently, honorable members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, today we face the critical need to build a culture amongst our people that positions moral and ethical values as the true north of our nation. The true north is a popular phrase that connotes one's point of orientation and helps people stay focused and on track. The true north is an internal compass that embodies who you are and the deeply held principles, values, and beliefs that represent and guide you. As we audit the ethics and morality of our nation, what we see manifesting in our society today is a reflection of the general state of the family, as Dr. Senyonyi just said here. We were all listening to him, which is the basic unit of society, as we all know. This is because society mirrors, or better still, reflects what we teach and uphold at the family level. I therefore appeal to you as people's representatives and as leaders from all walks of life to consider strategies for building a culture of integrity in our nation. We must also devise means of strengthening parenting and leadership at the family level. One way of achieving this is to work with those informal and formal structures in our society, such as religious bodies, places of worship, and cultural institutions which our people believe in and respect to advance this cause. We must reach society at the family basic level to ensure that parents, guardians, opinion leaders, and members of our communities understand the critical role the family plays in bringing up children, nurtured to uphold the moral and ethical conduct acceptable to us as a nation and to our God. And we must stand up and let the world know who is our God in this nation. Who do we believe? What determines our perspective as a people and our definition as a nation? Who do we follow? What gives us our ideals? Why do we say we will not allow homosexuality and lesbianism in our society? Why? We follow a living God, and He gave us a moral perspective to go by, to live by. And it doesn't matter those who want to threaten us, that they want to give us the money. They can keep their money. God will provide us. We are His people. And all things are under Him. He will provide for us if we stand for who He is in this country. Regrettably, today, there is a leadership vacuum in most families, as many parents focus entirely on earning a living and other social affairs, at the expense of making the time and effort to parent their children. Consequently, this vacuum is filled by distorted information from peers, from the media, and the so-called celebrities, many of whom are negative role models. We have witnessed some of them in the media promoting immorality, substance abuse, and violence as a way of life. Sadly, of late, we have also seen a trend with these negative influences permeating our schools to reach innocent children with immoral, unethical information and entertainment through administration and teachers who should be the very custodians of morality when our children are in school. These incidents are deplorable, and we condemn them as the Ministry of Education and Sports. However, while my ministry takes the necessary measures to reprimand these actions, I call upon all Ugandans to work with government to expose unethical activities to enable us to address this lack of responsibility by the leadership and administration in our schools and communities. We must expose and create awareness about the negative aspects of arts and entertainment based on foreign cultures, which are detrimental to the moral upbringing of our young generation. Moreover, they are alien to those positive aspects of our African culture and religious beliefs.